Hey guys, and welcome to lesson 2 of drawing for the board. Alright, so today we're going to talk about shapes. So what we're going to do in this lesson is, first off, explain why shapes are important and how you can incorporate them to create complex forms. So before I begin, I do want to make a point of something that I forgot to mention in the last video about holding the pencil. The way that you hold the pencil can also impact the way that you make lines. So if you're holding the pencil like this, you have a lot more immediate line control. And this is what I was talking about with like making the short lines or the really small, intricate lines. This position is much more useful. And you can also use this position while you're moving your entire arm, drawing from the shoulder, drawing from the elbow. But it's actually easier if you hold the pencil like this if you want to make sweeping strokes, if you're sketching, if you want to draw a lot more lightly, which is something that I'm going to go over in this video. But yeah, this is just something that I wanted to explain because I forgot to in the last video. So shapes, why are they important? Well, shapes are the building blocks and the foundations for everything that we see in everyday life. It's a way to simplify forms, whether the forms themselves are simple or complex. And shapes are actually how I drew these hands. So as you can see in this video, I build up the form of the hand by breaking them down into shapes, and this is what we're going to do. This is what I'm going to teach you guys in this video. This position was actually really difficult. So actually this part's really important. So I was having a lot of difficulty getting this position because it's kind of foreshortened as the hand is going back a little bit, and this top knuckle, the only knuckle that's really shown, the index finger, looks a little weird here. So what I decided to do was go back to drawing the underlying shapes that make up this section of the hand. And then once I got that down, it's almost like you're seeing through the form of whatever you're trying to make, and then you build on top of it. So once I'm seeing through it, I'm like, oh, okay, that part of the muscle would sit there, that knuckle, that bone would sit there. Bones and muscles, of course, are what make up the human body. So think of it that way. The shapes, the building blocks, you're creating the bones and muscles for objects. I'm going to take a picture of an object. We're going to start with a still life. I'm going to do a demonstration from this photo I took of my GameCube controller. I play Super Smash Bros. But anyway, so what are the basic shapes that we're looking at? See this shape? It's kind of like a weird trapezoid shape, right? Then I see these two. I was drawing them as rectangles, but yeah. So if we want to simplify this further, we can break this shape up into 3 shapes instead of one giant shape. So it'll be this curves from here, curve comes out, space in between, always looking back and forth between the two. So this is just a quick demonstration. What I want to do here is I want to block out everything that I'm looking at. I view this whole thing as just a giant rectangle, right? And I'm splitting it into multiple, actually do this in red again. Just split the whole thing into one giant rectangle, right? And then I see another one here, here, and here. Erase where the actual shape is, and that's it, right? So I'm gonna slowly go through what I'm doing. So let's do this on a larger scale. And these lines don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be perfectly straight or clean. You're gonna be erasing and creating what we call negative space by erasing to create the shape which is within the positive space. So this would be the positive space, right? Everything that you draw is the positive space. This is the foreground of your image. Now when you erase, everything around it is the negative space. All of this is negative space. And actually cutting into this with the eraser will create this negative space. For example, it would be important here, here and especially in here to show that these are, two separate knobs that stick out from the controller. So about halfway through this rectangular shape, I'm gonna split it. So this is gonna be the top half of the controller and this is the bottom half of the controller. I'm trying to bisect these simple shapes as much as I can. And I look at where things are relative to what's closest to them. You'll do a lot less erasing that way. You'll be more likely to get the shape the first time. And if you don't, that's fine. It's just, for me, it's a time, like an efficiency thing, and it's a good way to train your eye, is to just look at how things are situated in relation to other things. So now, we've gone slightly into the bottom half. Why not continue it? We're going to be looking at these two grips on the side. So we can kind of see the side of this grip right here. So this would be the top. But you can also see the side of it kind of comes down through the bottom. Since we're looking at it from the top, this top face is completely visible, but the bottom and sides are also visible. The left side is going to be visible here, more visible here rather than over here. Bottom is going to be visible here and here more than here, obviously. So we definitely want to represent the dimensionality of this object in our image. We're going to replicate this triangular shape right here. Okay, I'm going to work my way around. So now I see that this circular shape that I drew at the bottom also has some dimensionality to it. You're always going to want to look back at your reference constantly. Just to see what we're looking at. Break it down into shapes. We're not focused on this is the grip, this is the controller, this is the analog stick, this is the C stick, this is the, we're not looking at little things like that. Just breaking down what we see. Don't think about the object itself, just think about the shapes that make up the object, and it'll create itself as you just keep drawing. It's really interesting, really, how it happens. The less you focus on what you're drawing, the better you get at drawing it. So notice how, as I'm erasing and cutting into this image and redrawing it, you're creating form by creating negative space, creating the form of the controller by erasing. So in a way, you're drawing with the eraser, which is really cool. You have to think of the canvas as a 3D space that you're filling up, rather than trying to emulate an image in a 2D format. So this one, going back and forth with the eraser, cutting into it, redrawing, sometimes not redrawing, and I'm trying not to jump around too much. See how I started from here, then I went to here, then I went in here, I went in here, we went down here, and now we're here, drawing the other side of the controller. Remember, draw everything in relation to what's closest to it, and that's how you get your proportions right. And there are some times where you can't, it's really hard to gauge this. Like for example, if I'm drawing a face and I can't tell how long someone's cheek is because of the angle or their anatomy, what I'll do is break that cheek up into shapes, and it helps tremendously, seeing what's closest to what. Alright, so now we're gonna get to the things on top of the controller. So notice how everything here is consistent. So imagine that we're looking at a rectangle, right? We aren't looking at it just as a flat rectangle. What we're seeing is it's slightly to the left, and we're looking at it from the top down, right? Keeping in mind what we did here, this dimensionality, we're going to continue that with the details on top, because the buttons actually protrude from the surface of this controller. And notice how these circles are not perfectly within each other, right? It's not like this. Since it's rising out, the closer you put circular shapes to each other, the deeper it seems. You can get a better sense of depth. And this happens with a lot of other shapes, but with circles specifically, it tends to do this when the edges line up, like right here. You see this edge. Let me zoom in a little bit. This edge and this edge are a lot closer than this edge and this edge. When you're drawing shapes that's made up of straight lines, it's actually better to extend farther than intended and then go back and erase. This looks cleaner. That was not clean. This looks cleaner than this, right? So when you're dealing with objects that are made up of straight lines, it's always better to follow through with the line itself and then go back and erase, because it maintains that consistency. Another quick tip, while you're drawing, try not to zoom in too much. And I know, most of you are not on a tablet, so you can't zoom in and zoom out just by using the tips of your fingers. But what I mean is, for those of you that like to get really, really close, like you put your face really close to whatever you're drawing physically, don't do that. Because what's gonna happen is you're gonna get so fixated on the little minute details of what it is that you're drawing that you're gonna back away from your picture and realize that your proportions are off. One section might be a little bit more detailed than another. It'll just look weird because your perception of the image changed, your scale of the image changed because you got so close to it. If we were to break this down into prism, right? Things that are here on this end would be more flat than things on this end, because this top part is facing up, whereas this part here is actually coming towards us more. I don't know if you could tell that this is a arrow, but imagine this is the point of the arrow, right? Everything would be coming up at you more this way, whereas everything here would be coming up more like this. Don't ever look at erasing like a bad thing. If you drew it once, you can draw it again. You have the ability to draw it, and just think of it as more practice. That there's a mentality to it about just knowing that you can do better and actually doing better. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just going through and getting little details that I noticed I might have overlooked. It's really hard to talk and draw at the same time, but this has been fun, honestly. So after you get the basic shape of your object, it's a lot easier to just go in and adjust things. I actually recorded this video before, about a week ago, and I was editing on Monday. I'm recording this as of Friday. I was editing this on Monday, and it kept closing my software because it was saying that I had storage issues. So I was like, okay, I have an external hard drive where I can store all these files. So I'm like transferring and deleting and transferring and deleting. Fix it after like hours of trying to figure out what the problem was. Fix it, fire up the program, and I realized that I deleted not only all the files but the video itself that I was editing. So all that footage I lost because I wasn't paying attention and deleted it. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I've been procrastinating on reshooting this because that was a lot of work that I lost, but it's okay. So yeah, I just added the shading at the bottom just to emphasize that bottom plane because the light's coming from the top, and but I'll go over shading and stuff in the two videos from now. I think I'll go over shading. Thank you for watching. I really hope that this was helpful because this is probably the most important video that I will be making, and I'm always going to reference this video because everything that I do really everything that I draw is based on shapes. And this is I can't draw that chord. This is a really important foundational video, I think, that will build on everything else. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this and learned something. Your homework will be to take one object from your home and use it for reference. You can take a picture of it, you can just use it live, whatever you want to do, and break it down into shapes and draw it. You don't have to shade it, you don't have to color it, you don't have to do anything except draw it. So this is going to be the first assignment / poll voting, and yeah, thank you for watching.